Have you ever wondered what lies beyond death and what could happen to the world very soon? A 14-year-old girl died for 7 minutes and returned with a shocking message. She saw the spiritual division of Earth and the date of a global conflict that will change everything. What she reveals in this account will move you. So, like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which city you're watching from. Your presence here is part of this awakening. I remember exactly the moment when everything stopped. It was a muggy Texas afternoon, and I was walking home from school when I felt a weight on my chest that forced me to my knees on the sidewalk. It wasn't an ordinary pain. It was as if the air of the world had become too heavy for my lungs. I passed out, my eyes closed, and my consciousness faded. But what came next wasn't darkness. It was the beginning. First, I felt my body float, but it wasn't like a dream. It was real, more real than anything I'd ever felt. I saw my body lying on the ground, surrounded by people screaming, someone trying to revive me, but it all seemed distant, as if I'd crossed an invisible veil, and it was there, in that silence between two worlds, that the presence he appeared. It was neither man nor woman. It had no face, but it radiated something stronger than any human emotion, an absolute truth. As the presence approached, I heard, not with my ears but with my soul, a single phrase: "The time has come to see." The presence didn't touch me, but I felt as if I were being carried by its own will. Groundless, wingless, I moved. It was as if my thoughts became a road, and before me, the space opened up, a corridor of living light, its walls pulsating, as if they were breathing. Each step, if you can call it that, took me deeper, away from Earth and closer to something. The colors changed depending on how I felt. When I thought of my mother, who must have been in despair, the hallway glowed a soft pink and enveloped me in warmth. When I felt fear, the light turned blue and whispered, "You are not alone." Inside, time was different. There were no seconds, no minutes. There were events in the form of feelings. I saw scenes as quick as lightning: wars, tears, hugs, seeds sprouting in the dry ground, silent crowds gazing skyward. The presence then stopped, and for the first time it spoke again. "You were called because your soul knew. Before you were born, you agreed to remember." I didn't understand everything, but I felt everything. A portal of light opened up ahead. It didn't feel like a door. It was like an explosion frozen in time, made of pure energy. And when I stepped through, I found myself in a place that doesn't exist on Earth. It was a city made of sound and light. Nothing there was solid, and yet it was firmer than anything I'd ever touched. The buildings floated like harmonious ideas. The ground glowed with ancient memories. And the sky, oh, the sky seemed to contain all the heavens of all existence. I didn't walk. I existed in movement. The presence guided me to the city center, a circular square made of liquid crystal, surrounded by beings, some in human form, others made only of energy. They were all there for me. And there, in the center, lay the book. It had no cover, no pages. It was made of liquid light and sang with a melody that reminded me of something I'd never experienced, and, at the same time, always known. The presence spoke again, this time with a tone that seemed to carry centuries. "The world will be divided, and you will see why." When the book opened, I saw no words. I saw universal memories, scenes of the world, of humanity, of the earth, as if a soul trying to find its own reflection. Each image was charged with pure emotion: birth, loss, wars, discoveries, forgiveness. It was as if each page breathed. The presence was beside me, but this time, there was another being too. This one was taller, made of an intense white light that pulsed like a heart. Its vibration was different. It carried something more, urgent, and it was he who projected the first clear image that took my breath away. I saw the planet divided in two, literally, but not by earthquakes nor explosions. It was a vibrational division, as if half of the earth began to rise, to shine with golden, blue, violet tones, and the other half sank into gray, red, and black tones, laden with fear, hatred, and despair. The next scene was even more shocking: confused crowds looking up at the sky, and then a star exploding in silence. In the midst of the explosion, a date. I saw it, completely visible, marked by light codes. My heart raced. The presence looked at me with compassion and said, "This date is not a punishment. It's a portal, a timeline where humanity will be divided not by nations nor religions, but by frequency, by choice." At that moment, I felt something invade my chest. It wasn't fear, it was responsibility. I knew I was in the presence of a cosmic secret, something that would not be easily revealed. The images sped up. I saw economic collapses, political systems crumbling, people in the streets crying, screaming, praying, but I also saw miracles happening at the same time. People hugging each other in the midst of chaos, strangers saving each other, children touching the earth and making flowers of light bloom. Everything was contrast. Everything was choice. Then the book closed, and the being of light, the second one, spoke directly to me, wordlessly, but with force. "The world will be divided. It has already begun, but the end has not yet been written." I trembled. At that moment, I understood. It wasn't just a vision. It was a calling. The ground beneath my feet, or beneath my consciousness, transformed again. The city of light dissolved, like mist in the wind, and before I knew it, I was floating above the earth. But it wasn't Earth as we know it. It was the earth seen from within. I saw the spiritual heart of the planet. I saw energetic networks connecting people, places, feelings. I saw millions of golden threads intertwining souls with each other, forming a living web of intentions, choices, destinies. And then I realized some of those threads were breaking. Others lit up brightly as if they were waking from a deep sleep. The presence showed me what was to come. Ascendant separation, but definitive. Not physical, not violent, vibrational. Human beings would be divided not by race and money or power, but by resonance. The choice is already being made, with every thought, with every gesture, with every silence. These words echoed within me. I saw then two paths opening upon earth, one covered in dark mists, where people wandered like shadows, trapped in fear, selfishness, greed, delusion, and another, filled with soft light, where souls walked with their eyes open, awake, firm, guided by compassion, by truth. And the scariest thing, both paths existed at the same time, in the same world. And the date, that date still vibrated in the sky of vision, as a reminder that the breaking point would not be avoided. It would come like a wave, and everyone would be touched by it. The presence then led me to a wide field where thousands of souls were gathered in silence. They did not speak, but emanated light. I understood that they were incarnated souls, living on earth, but during sleep or in states of unconsciousness. They came there to prepare themselves. It was like a school before the awakening, and a collective thought crossed my mind, coming from everyone at the same time. We are ready, but humanity must choose. In that instant, I felt my very being expand. I was part of that moment. I was a piece of that transition. And as I looked at the earth one last time, I saw that separation was not punishment. It was a harvest, a liberation, a spiritual birth. And this division of the world had already begun. After the vision of the reunited souls, I was taken to a space that seemed to be out of everything, outside of time, outside of space, outside of creation itself as we know it. It was a vibrant void, made of conscious silence, and at the center of this no place, there was a sphere. She didn't shine, she pulsated, as if one were breathing. The presence led me to it, and as I approached, the sphere opened. Inside, there were no images, no voices, no symbols. There was a single vibration, what seemed to be the origin of truth. It was there that I received the prophecy, but it didn't come as words. It crossed me. For eternal moments, I became the earth. I felt your pain, your fatigue, your hope. I heard the screams of the burning forests, the whispers of children praying alone, the darkest thoughts of leaders playing with power. But I also heard silent prayers in the middle of the night, people that no one sees but who sustain the world with the purity of their hearts. And then, I saw the final choice approaching like a dark dawn. The prophecy has shown me that there will be a day, yes, a specific day, marked in the spiritual fabric of time, in which an invisible decision will be made by all at the same time. Some will remember, others will resist, and others will simply fall into the deepest spiritual sleep ever. The division will be subtle at first, but it will become evident. That's what I felt when I absorbed that energy. I saw then the earth in absolute silence, for just a second, and that second was the most powerful moment I've ever witnessed, because it was the moment at which the collective vibration would be measured, not by numbers, not by words, but by inner truth. And then, suddenly, the sphere projected the date onto the invisible sky of that space. It was more than a number. It was a turning point engraved in the soul of the planet. And when I tried to memorize, everything went blank. The presence told me without saying, the date should not be spoken. It should be felt, and it will be. It was at that moment that I understood. The world will be divided, and the prophecy is already vibrating in each of us. After receiving the prophecy, I was enveloped by a golden mist that seemed to carry me like a womb of light. There was nowhere to go, and at the same time I was being carried by something that was inside me and outside of everything, until suddenly the fog lifted, and I was in front of the temple. It was no ordinary temple. It had no walls, columns, or doors. It was made of living memories. It floated like a solid mirage, pulsing with conscious energy. As I approached, I realized that every part of it, every spark of light that formed it, was composed of moments of humanity. I touched one of these lights and saw a father embracing his son after years of separation. I touched another and saw a hungry man refusing to steal a piece of bread to maintain his dignity. Small acts, drops of light. These are the ones who will hold the earth together, whispered the presence. Inside the temple, there was a circular room. In the center, a mirror that did not reflect the face but the apple. When I looked in my eyes, I saw all my lives at the same time. I saw who I had been before I was me. I saw who I would still be. But more than that, I saw the earth's collective pain reflected in my own eyes. The earth was crying, not with tears, but often. She was tired, not from hate, but from unlived love, and she was preparing herself, getting ready for be divided between what can continue and what needs to cease. And then the mirror transformed. It began to show the possible timelines. In one, humanity remained as it is, distracted, blind, addicted to itself, and was swallowed up by collapse. In another, a minority awakens in silence, and that minority ignites the hearts of billions, and a new world is born, without violence, but with ruptures. And in a third, there was a leap, a cosmic moment where everyone would be forced to choose, even the most skeptical. And at that moment, the earth would split between light and shadow. Literally, one side would advance, the other would start over. The date will be the flashpoint, I felt, the fuse of something that is already burning inside. And then, from the invisible roof of the temple, a single drop of light fell on the mirror. As I touched its surface, I heard a sound like 1,000 voices crying at once. But it wasn't sadness. It was wake up. The presence looked at me and this time spoke clearly in my mind. Take this memory. Keep it. One day when the eyes of the world are ready, you will give it away, and many will remember. As soon as I left the temple, or perhaps I was absorbed by it, I found myself in an endless field, white and gold, as if made of light and stardust. The ground seemed alive, and with every step I took, waves of energy spread as if that space reacted to what I felt. On the horizon, I saw thousands of shapes. They were like people, but not made of matter. They were naked consciences, no ego, no masks, just pure truth. They were there, waiting, the trial, but not the judgment we imagine on earth, with punishments, tribunals, condemnations. That judgment was individual and collective at the same time, a judgment without words. It was the heart itself being weighed by its own light. The presence explained to me, without using a voice, there is no one judging. Each soul sees the reflection of its choices, and the reflection reveals which side it belongs to. And then, I saw it. The consciousnesses that vibrated in fear began to move away from each other, as if magnetic fields were repelling each other, isolating themselves in bubbles of unresolved pain. And those that vibrated in love came together like drops of water becoming an ocean, forming a living network of light that grew, pulsed, rose. There was no punishment, had natural separation. The distribution. I then saw the earth transform into a living mandala. Its energy fields were reorganizing themselves. Continents didn't move, But your vibrations, yes. Some regions sank in density. Others began to radiate something new, like awakened portals scattered across the planet. And at the center of it all, Data. She was now a vibrational field, not a number. She was a global internal event, something every human being would feel, on some level. For some, it would just be an inexplicable discomfort. For others, an explosion of consciousness. For the others, a pain impossible to ignore. The earth will not punish anyone, said the presence. She will just stop supporting what no longer resonates with her. And in that moment,
I understood the quietest terror of all. The world as we know it will continue to exist, but for some, it will become unbearable. That will be the real judgment, not imposed, but felt, inside. And then, everything around me started to fall apart, but not as an end. It was the beginning of the last revelation. Everything around me transformed at an unmeasurable speed. The shapes, the sounds, the colors.
Everything dissolved into layers of reality that overlapped like falling veils. And then, I was suspended in the void. But this emptiness was not absence. It was absolute fullness. It was where time dies and eternity breathes. There, where no questions need be asked, for everything is answered by presence. And that's where I received the last vision. It didn't come in sharp images, but in waves of raw reality. I saw the earth preparing to give birth to itself. I imagined that global conflict would be just wars and collapses, blood. But what they showed me was deeper, scarier, and more beautiful at the same time. We the structures of reality cracking like eggshells. What is hidden deep within all human hearts has begun to rise, to explode, to leak out. I saw fathers facing their guilt, mothers facing ancestral fears, leaders breaking down inside in the face of the lies they had created. The entire planet went into emotional turmoil. And then, silence. The same silence that precedes birth. In this silence, millions of consciences began to awaken from a collective amnesia. I saw simple people remembering that everything is energy, that every pain carries an unanswered request for love, that life on earth is a school and not a sentence. And in this new silence, the world broke apart, not by explosions, not by wars, but for irreversible internal choices. On one side, there are those who would continue in the frequency of fear. On the other, those who chose to cross the portal. The earth would no longer be one. She would be two vibrations coexisting on the same plane, for a time, until the division was total, like two planets occupying the same space, but in different dimensions. And then, I saw the bridge, a bridge made of souls, people like me, like you, ordinary on the outside, but carrying seeds of the new vibration. These souls would be the rememberers. They wouldn't shout, they wouldn't force, they just would exist with so much light, so much compassion, so much truth, that those who were still between the two vibrations would feel something inexplicable. I want to go there, I want to remember too. This would be the salvation of many. The bridge was not a place. They were people, awakened people, broken people who became a channel of healing. And then, before the vision ended, I saw myself on that bridge, and the presence said, "That's why you're coming back." After the last vision, my consciousness began to shrink, not as if losing something, but as if preparing to enter a much smaller container than it has become. The temple, the field, the void, the book, everything disappeared in silence, leaving behind only an immutable certainty. I had been marked. And then, the presence approached for the last time. She didn't say any words, but I felt as if all the galaxies were breathing inside me as I was placing something in the center of my chest. A seal, not visible, not material, but eternally real. When this seal touched my essence, I felt all the truths I saw fix themselves in me like fixed stars in a sky that never fades. It was like carrying a map, a living memory, a spiritual alarm that one day will ring and make me remember again. This seal wasn't for power. It was for mission. At the same moment, thousands of other presences revealed themselves, beings of light that were hidden until then, silent witnesses of my crossing. They looked at me as if they recognized me, and maybe they did. In the end, I wasn't the first, and I wouldn't be the last. With the eyes of my soul, I saw each of them stretching out their hands, or what represented their hands, and pouring fragments of their own essences over me. It was like a cosmic baptism, A ritual that said, "You are now a bearer of remembrance." And when you tell me, my spiritual body began to be pulled back. But before I left completely, the presence revealed to me only last sentence, engraved directly into my spirit. The date exists. The conflict will come. But what it will be depends on what you choose to be. So, I fell, like a shooting star crossing the plains, like a ray of light returning into matter. And before I opened my eyes in the physical world, I felt something strange. Not fear, but a sweet sadness. Because I knew what I was leaving behind. But I also knew the world is about to be divided, and every soul will be called to choose its place. My descent back was slow and heavy, like diving into a dense sea after flying through endless skies. The lightness I felt, the clarity, the unconditional love, all of it was gradually replaced by limits. Weight, flesh, time. I'm back, but not as I was before. Before opening your eyes, I could already feel the seal pulsing in my chest, like a faded star that still held the heat of an entire sun. My consciousness was fragmented, but the mission was intact. The world, this world, was calling me back. Not to live, but to remember living. The first thing I felt was the cold air entering my lungs. It hurt, not because of the temperature, but because the body seemed too small to what now existed within me. I heard voices, hurried, surprised, crying. Doctors, my mother, machines, but none of that mattered. Everything in me screamed, "Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget." And I haven't forgotten. For the next few minutes, I remained in absolute silence, staring at the hospital ceiling. But inside me, a revolution was happening. I saw the faces of the city of light. I felt the weight of the date vibrating in the air like a musical note that only a few souls could hear. The earth is no longer the same. I am no longer the same. And then came the question that no one asked out loud, but that I heard from everyone. What did you see there? And the answer was here, engraved on the seal of my soul. I saw the world being divided. I saw the birth of two futures. I saw the truth pulsating like a star within every human being, just waiting to be touched. And I saw the exact moment when the collective soul of the earth would have to choose between remaining asleep or awakening once and for all. This choice is still happening. She is in the now. Every gesture, every silence, every decision you make today is drawing the map of the new earth. And even if you don't see it, even if it seems like everything stays the same, there is something inside you that already knows. The world will be divided, and the vibration of your heart will define which side you will be on. If you enjoyed this beautiful spiritual testimony, please leave a like, comment, share your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.